In this video I will show you that the Porsche GT3 RS loses on average only $12.6 thousand per year, and that this is an extremely small number. I will namely also show you how it compares to the McLaren 570S, 720S, Mercedes-Benz AMG GT R and Porsche GT3. What's up YouTube and welcome to a new video. Now if you're into cars, then it's quite likely that the Porsche GT3 RS has a special place in your heart. This video was also requested by many of you, and that of course also means that you can request a video simply by commenting the name of the car for which you would like to see the analysis down below in the comment section. Also make sure to subscribe and smash that notification button so you get actually notified when your requested analysis goes live. Now then, let's get into the GT3 RS market, but let me first explain what approach we're going to take. The GT3 RS market is namely quite a special market. In the first step, we will have a look at some general price levels and explore the market a little bit. After that, we will figure out the depreciation numbers, including the depreciation per year and the depreciation per 1000 miles driven. In step 3, we will then compare the depreciation curve of the GT3 RS to the one of the Porsche GT3, Mercedes-Benz AMG GT R, McLaren 570S and McLaren 720S. In the last step, so in step number 4, I will show you then which cars offer good value for money in today's market, and after that we will conclude. And as you saw, we have quite many things to cover in this video, so let's start with step number 1. The GT3 RS market is appearing right over here, and you can see it with the model year on the horizontal axis and the price on the vertical axis. You can also see that each car is indicated by a blue bubble and that the most occurring price points for each model year are displayed with a black X. Now in this market there are only 106 cars for sale, and the most occurring price for these cars is $200,000. The market however looks rather strange. There are namely only cars for sale with model year 2016 and model year 2019. And that of course makes this a tough market to analyze. On top of that, we can also see that the price variation in the market is very large. You can get already into a GT3 RS from around $145,000, with prices stretch all the way up till $280,000. And obviously, the 2016 cars represent the 991.1 generation and the 2019 cars represent the 991.2 generation. Now, if you know the GT3 RS market a little bit, then you also know that especially for the new cars, the spec plays a huge role in the price. It is then also so that for the cars in model year 2019, the presence of the Weissach package plays a key role in explaining the price variation. So let's identify those cars. And remember that this package was primarily focused at reducing the weight of the car. Now as you can see in the graph, while you were reducing the weight, you are increasing the price. The cars which have this package are namely on average $25,000 more expensive than the cars which don't have this package. If we look then to model year 2016, then we can see that the price difference can mainly be explained by the difference in mileage. And since we know now how the market looks like, let's move on and figure out what the depreciation per year is. And that of course will be rather difficult because we only have 2 model years available, but let's give it a go. The depreciation per year is now appearing right over here, and you can see it with still the model year on the horizontal axis and the price on the vertical axis. You can also see that there's a blue solid line now in the graph, and this line shows the depreciation curve. Finally then, it is also key to mention that I cleaned up the graph a little bit. I namely only included new cars in model year 2020 and used cars in the older model years. This namely gives a much cleaner depreciation curve. I also removed all the cars which have the Weissach package because they are skewing the price distribution in model year 2019, and also we don't have any cars with this package in model year 2016. And with those administrative messages out of the way, let's have a look to the numbers. If I put this graph on the big screen, then you can see that the average depreciation per year is $12.6 thousand. And if you are a regular viewer of the channel, then you know that this is an extremely small number. A Porsche GT3 namely loses on average $13.8 thousand per year, and a McLaren 570S around $20,000. But more about that later in the video. We namely need to interpret the number over here with quite some care. First of all, you can see that there are extremely few cars for sale, and this means that the average price for a new car can fluctuate quite a bit. And a change in the average price of a new car would of course mean a change in the depreciation number. The higher this average price point, the larger the drop, the higher the depreciation. Second then, it's obvious that we're missing quite some model years over here. And the large shaded area surrounding the depreciation curve shows then also that the uncertainty in the estimate is very large. So please keep this in mind when you're watching this video. Now having said that, we will try to shed some light on what's happening between the 2 model years what we have, by looking to the depreciation curve of the Porsche GT3. First, however, we will have a look to the depreciation per 1000 miles driven, because there it of course doesn't matter that we don't have these model years. And the depreciation per 1000 miles is appearing right over here, where you can see it instead of model year we have now the mileage on the horizontal axis. If we have a closer look to the graph then you can see that most people keep the mileage rather sensible. There are many cars for sale which are almost brand new and only 3 cars with a mileage between 16 and 18,000 miles. Now for the full market, the average depreciation per 1000 miles driven is around $1,800. And in this market segment, that number is extremely low. You can see though that there's a large difference between the cars which have the Weissach package and the cars which don't have this package. The ones which have this package depreciate slightly faster with around $8,900 per 1000 miles driven. The ones without the package lose an average $2,800 per 1000 miles. Now if you're in the market for a GT3 RS, then you're most likely searching for a track-focused precision weapon. So what else could it be that you have or perhaps are considering at this very moment? Well, I would say that McLaren tick most of the boxes, so a 570S or a 720S might have crossed your mind. Also, you might have thought about an AMG GT R and perhaps even considered the normal GT3. So let's have a look to the different depreciation curves for those cars, and that graph should be appearing right now on your screen. Before we continue, however, please remember to support the channel by smashing that like button. You can see that we have the AMG GT R in blue, the 720S in orange, the 570S in green, the GT3 in red and the GT3 RS in purple. And as you can see, the graph looks a little bit like a big bowl of spaghetti, but let's first focus on the GT3 versus the GT3 RS. So the red versus the purple line. We can see namely that the initial premium for a GT3 RS is around $25,000, and we're looking only here to the cars without the Weissach package. Now if we follow then these two depreciation curves, then we can see that in model year 2016 this premium actually increased till around $33,000. And this of course is the result of a higher depreciation rate for the GT3 than for the GT3 RS. As I already mentioned a bit earlier in the video, the GT3 is losing on average $30,800, while it was $12,600 for the GT3 RS. Relatively, this works out then to be 7.8% per year for the GT3 and 6.4% for the GT3 RS. Now as I already mentioned, it is a pity that we only have 2 model years available for the GT3 RS market. This namely does not only increase the uncertainty in the depreciation estimate, it also makes it impossible to generate a forecast based on the depreciation line. Therefore, when it comes to the forecasted values, it might be smart to have a look to the GT3 curve. And here we can see that the GT3 has a very stable depreciation curve without any big drops. And when a car market shows this stable depreciation curve, it means that there's very little uncertainty in the market and that the market knows exactly how to price the cars correctly. For the GT3 RS, I do then also expect a similar predictable depreciation path. And with that being said, let's talk a moment about the other cars. You can see namely that for the price of a GT3 RS, you can also get a McLaren 570S or an AMG GT R plus a daily driver. And after some negotiation, you're probably also able to get yourself into a 720S. You can see, however, that the non-GT cars have a very large variation in their depreciation curves. And that's of course something which is perhaps not that desirable if you're spending this amount on a car. Now in terms of bang for buck, it is of course the 720S which offers an amazing value at this price point. But I would say that the same can be said for the Mercedes-Benz AMG GT Rs in model year 2018. Nevertheless, if value predictability is important to you, then the GT products are the way to go. If you, by the way, want to see the full depreciation analysis for any of the other cars which were displayed in the graph, then I recommend that you check out my channel, because you will find separate analysis for all of them over there. Now, besides comparing the GT3 RS's depreciation curve to the cars which I've just showed you, I've also compared it to all of the other cars which I've analyzed on this channel. I do then also quickly want to share the depreciation leaderboard with you, because that gives you a better feeling as to where the rates of the GT3 RS sit in the full market. The number is namely quite extraordinary. The depreciation leaderboard is now appearing on your screen, and you can see it with the different cars on the horizontal axis and the average relative depreciation rate on the vertical axis. And the fact that this is a relative rate of course means that we can compare all of the different cars. Now if we find the GT3 RS, then we can see that it ranks in the middle with a rate of 6.4% per year. And this is an astonishing good value for a car which is only 4 years old. If we namely look to the other cars in this graph which are 4 years old, which are the BMW M2 and the AMG GT, then we can see that these depreciate respectively at 7.9 and 9.6% per year. Now I also checked the depreciation per 1000 miles leaderboard, which in essence works the same, and the result was then also the same, meaning that the GT3 RS scored exceptionally good. Now, before we close this video, I still want to show you one more thing, and that is what an incredibly good value for money GT3 RSs are on the market if you're not too picky about the spec. And the best way I can illustrate that to you is by using a relative value plot like the one appearing over here. You can see that we have the mileage on the horizontal axis, the price on the vertical axis, and that the cars are still represented by a bubble. The size of the bubble, however, is reflecting now the model year. So the smallest bubbles are the 2016 cars and the largest bubbles are the 2019 cars. Finally then you can also see that I gave them a different color, and the color indicates whether or not the car has the Weissach package. Now then, back to what I'm trying to show here. If you're namely looking for a good value for money car, you're most likely looking for a car with the lowest mileage, the newest model year and the lowest price. And if we translate these requirements to the graph, then it means that you need to search in this market corner over here. It is then also within this corner that we can find this 2016 car with a price of $156,995 and a mileage of 1,187 miles. And with these numbers, this car is priced around $13,800 below the average for cars in this model year, and also has a mileage which is below the average with around 4,300 miles. To me, it therefore seems that this car offers extraordinary value for money. You can see then also that it is priced in line with much higher mileage cars. Now of course, this price difference needs to come from somewhere. It is then also not the highest spec car out there, and is also not sold through a main dealer. Now at the other end of the spectrum, we can for example find this car over here, which has a price of $159,913, with a mileage which is quite high compared to the rest of the market. On the flip side though, this car is sold through a main dealer. So if you are in the market for a GT3 RS, I think it is worth to consider whether or not you really need that high spec car, and whether or not you really want to buy it through a main dealer. But that is of course a very personal question which requires a very personal answer. And with that out of the way, let's wrap up this video and conclude. Let me start off by repeating that there are very few model years for sale and that there is some uncertainty in the depreciation numbers. However, based on what we have, I think that the GT3 RS market is one of the most, if not the most, sensible supercar to buy at this price point. We saw already in a previous video that the depreciation rate on a normal GT3 is very low and predictable, but the GT3 RS seems to perform even better. And that is value-wise, of course. The GT line of Porsche is just an amazing strong brand, and it is so for very good reasons. I do then also see over and over again that these cars follow a very predictable depreciation curve once the initial price fluctuations are settled. It doesn't, however, mean that the GT3 RS is the only choice at this moment. The prices are namely quite close to the 720S's, which of course dropped a ton. And although they are perhaps not as good as a GT3 RS, an AMG GT R also offers extremely good value for money at this price point. And with that note, we arrived at the end of this video. Now if you enjoyed this video, please remember to smash that like button and to subscribe. I will namely upload a new depreciation analysis every week. Also remember then to check out some of my other videos, as you can find for example the analysis for the McLaren 570S on my channel, and also the analysis for the Porsche GT3 you can find over there. As always, a huge thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next week.